detail about it when I start talking to you about how the PE programs in schools should work, hopefully. Now, most of our PE programs in schools are focused on a competitive program. You will find that most schools that say that we are successful in sports are schools that are considered to have a good physical education program. And that is not a true reflection of a quality physical education program. But the standards of when you talk about international PE, international schools around the world, or schools around the world, they try to follow a PE program that is focused more on development rather than on a competitive atmosphere. And as I was talking to one of our guests before I started, and he said, I wish there was more things that were happening in our school. But one of the things that you will find with our PE teachers is they follow what is called the 3R PE concept. The 3R PE concept is very widely practiced in many schools, which is basically a roll call, and the PE teacher rolls out the balls or whatever the equipment, and then he relaxes. And that is the PE class. And the kids are doing whatever they want. Or otherwise, the PE teachers are involved more in the discipline side of the school. School managements expect that the PE teachers are the ones who will be controlling the school discipline and keeping the students in line, which unfortunately is not the right way. School discipline is a whole school issue, and discipline of children in the school is the responsibility of every teacher in the school, and mostly of the school principal or the head of the school. It is not one particular teacher who is supposed to be responsible for the discipline in the school. What does physical education in international schools look at? I've had the opportunity of working in different areas, in different curriculums. In my first 20 years of teaching, I've worked with international schools, and I've experienced the joy of working in a progressive, structured curriculum that really imparts quality education in physical education. Now, the first thing that you will find in schools that are really following an international standard is that the physical educators are a part of the holistic development of a child in the school. The physical education program is a very, very important program and contributes very strongly to the holistic development of children in school, starting from kindergarten all the way up to high school in grade 12. The program is very progressive. It is a structured program, and children go from stage to stage of learning in school. And the stages cover what we call early elementary, upper elementary, middle school, and high school. Those will be the 4 stages of school curriculums, PE curriculum that are followed worldwide. And if you have had an opportunity to examine the national education policy that has been announced a couple of weeks ago, you will find that this is the structure that the government of India is also proposing now, that we go into this lower elementary, upper elementary, middle school, and high school, where children will feel and understand that they are progressing from one block to another block of their lives in school. And also the curriculum also changes as you move from one block to another block. And this is an age-appropriate curriculum that progresses all the way up to grade 12. And one of the key things that happens in the other curriculums like the IB, the IGCSE, the AB, or any of the international curriculums, the goal of physical education program and why kids come to a PE class is to have fun. But along with fun, they also want to develop new skills. They want to improve on their personal fitness, understand what it is to be a part of a team, learn teamwork, and all the social skills that go along with that comes from sports. And the most important of them is to accept victory and defeat very gracefully and realize that these are the 2 sides of the same coin. So all these things are very important part of the physical education program. And grading is very important part of physical education programs in international schools. And the children are graded at the end of every class. And when you finish a class, you know what kind of a grade you have got for the day. And the grade is not based on how well you have done in the class or how
Excuse me,
good.
sir.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you please disable attendee annotation?
Okay. Let me. How do I do that?
Yeah. Uh, on your share screen to your right side, there's an option called More. There's a drop down. After you click there,
Once.
on top, the screen share option.
Once.
After you enable screen sharing, on top there's a black bar.
Um,
Towards the end of the bar, there's a more. You'll have to exit this presentation, I guess, to access.
okay, I got that now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Disable attendee annotation.
I've done that. Is that
Yes, sir.
all right? I think we're good now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, as I was talking about the stages of physical education in school, we have lower elementary, which is preschool up to class 2. Then we have upper elementary, that is class 3 to class 5, and then middle school, class 6 to class 8, and then high school, class 9 to class 12. And in every stage of this PE curriculum, there is various differences that build upon your previous knowledge that you have had in your earlier block. So when you come into upper elementary, you need to have a set of skills that you have learned in lower elementary that will enable you to take part and actively be involved in the classes in the upper elementary. So the foundations are laid one block before as you come along. So now we're looking at the foundations of physical literacy from preschool to class 2. So locomotor skills are the most important things, are skills that we start with preschool and up to class 2. When we talk about locomotor skills, it's basically the idea about locomotor skills is how does a person move from point A to point B? And this could be on land, this could be in the water, this could be in snow, and this could also be in space through gymnastics. So there are different ways of movement. So one of the key aspects for anybody to excel in sports, and many of you might have just learned this naturally because you could be natural athletes, but there are children who come in who do not have a natural athletic ability, who have to be taught these locomotor skills. And once you have understood the locomotor skills and the terminology that goes with it, so for example, when I say gallop, how do you define a gallop? A gallop is basically a movement where the front foot is always leading. And we use a galloping motion when we are playing badminton, we are playing in any kind of invasion games like kabaddi also. We also do a glide, which is again a sidewards or a lateral movement where we have any one of the foot leading. So locomotor movement is the foundations, which is starts there. Then we have our non-locomotor movements where we do not move from point A to point B, but we manipulate our body into different ways that we stretch, we bend, we pull, we curl, and we do a whole lot of things with our body without moving from one point to another. The next part of these foundation skills of physical literacy is manipulative skills. Now, manipulative skills is where we are learning to, the basics would be how to throw. How do we throw something? When we throw something, we have three different ways of throwing. We can do an underarm throw, we can do an overarm throw, we can do a sidearm throw. Same day, when we catch, we can catch overhead, we can catch with our fingers overhead, with our fingers pointing up, we can catch with our fingers pointing down, we can catch with one hand. And same thing would come with dribbling. We dribble with our feet. We can dribble with an object in our hand, like playing hockey. So there are a whole lot of manipulative skills that you have to learn and how you manipulate objects. So once you have a fair foundation in this, this enables you to participate in most sports because all sports comes down to these kind of skills. And as I said earlier, like if somebody is a natural athlete, it comes to them easy. They just watch somebody doing it once and they can imitate that person immediately. But then there are, I would say, almost 40 to 50% of a class, even at kindergarten stage, who are not natural athletes, who need time to practice these skills and who have to repeat these skills to master these skills. So it is very important that we have this very strong foundation with locomotor skills, non-locomotor movement, and manipulative skills. Once you have had this foundation with those skills, and those skills are also used in small recreation-based games. And PE teachers and coaches do not get the kids involved in a full-fledged game, but you play basic games that help you. Like even if you're going to play marbles, if you're just going to play marbles and throw marbles at each other, you are learning how to throw an object at a target. So that's the foundation where all these basics of physical literacy are going to help you. And when we talk about the games, which is the next stage where you have already learned this up to class 2, now we are moving on. And now we are going to understand how I can start using these skills that I have learned in my foundation years and bring them into sports and games. Target games, we have a whole lot of target games where I'll give you an example now of marbles. And then when we talk about target, we are also, the target games are going to be the accuracy is going to be tested when you start playing a game like cricket, when you start playing a game like softball or baseball, and any of the games where you have to throw towards a particular area. So placement, velocity, how much force to use when I'm doing something, and how should I position my body when I'm going to be throwing something, which foot should come forward, how do I take my arm back, how should my fingers be when I'm releasing. All these are going to be very important when you're trying to strike a target by doing any kind of skill. The same way we come up to our striking and fielding games. So when we look at striking and fielding games, we talk about cricket, we talk about softball, we talk about baseball. And maybe I'm not able to get it right away, but there are also other games which can also come into the same category of striking and fielding games. So over here, the important skills that you should have before you start playing these skills is how to strike an object using an implement, which could be a bat. How are you going to be throwing? How are you going to be catching? And how are you going to be running? So your locomotor skills, your non-locomotor skills, and your manipulative skills are all going to be tested out here. We also have net and wall games. When we talk about net and wall games, we're talking about tennis, we're talking about badminton, we're talking about squash, we're talking about volleyball. So we have a whole lot of games that are focused on net and wall games. And then we have the invasion games like football, hockey, rugby, where the object of the game is to invade another space of the opposite team and try and score by scoring a goal or a try or whatever it is. But everywhere in these games, you are going to be tested with all your basic manipulative, locomotor, and non-locomotor skills. So this is the foundation that children should have when they progress to the next stage, which is going to be middle school. So once we go to middle school, we are looking at class 6 to 8. Now in middle school, what happens is, this is where we start the training to compete stage. Now we are slowly bringing in the competitive element because the children have already got a foundation in games, in sports. They have a decent amount of physical literacy, which is growing day by day. And now they can start trying to master the skills that they have got in a competitive environment. So children are going to start picking sports, and the PE teachers try to divide the season, the whole year, into blocks where they can be doing one, depending on the facilities that you have in school. You can start saying, okay, if my school has got a football facility, we have a badminton court, we have a basketball court, we got table tennis. So we can have seasons where we particularly do one sport, and then the kids get on to, so they can try at least 3 or 4 different sports in a year. Also, in middle school, we start the introduction to understanding the human body and the physiology of the body. Because until unless you understand your body, you are not going to love your body and you're not going to be taking care of your body. The whole purpose of physical education, physical activity, and physical literacy is to make you understand your own body, how your body responds to different stimuluses, and how you can take care of this body as you go through in life. When we go to high school, the high school stage is where we talk about the depth of knowledge. Depth of knowledge is now when we talk about the first part, we talk about 4 stages in depth of knowledge. We talk about acquisition of skills, application of skills. So you acquire your skills in the early stages of schooling, then you try to apply them in different game settings as you come into middle school. Then we come into the augmentation of skills. Now, where you are trying to augment these skills along with tactics, techniques, teamwork, team tactics, individual tactics. So there's a whole lot of knowledge that is going on based on how you acquire that skill. So the depth of knowledge is very important for students in physical education, in whatever activities that they do. So that when, as you go through to higher levels, now you will start using this to even perform better, because you understand movement, you understand how your body responds, you understand your own position on a team, what you are good at, you're able to analyze your strength, your weakness. And along with this, there is a big importance given to personal fitness, wellness, and nutrition. So personal fitness is where now, when most of us come into class 9, 10, 11, and 12, we start looking at our bodies differently. And there is a desire that we would like to make sure that our body is in good shape. So a large percentage of students take the extra effort to indulge in physical activity, and that could be fitness, that could be bodybuilding, that could be dancing, so it could be cardio, it could be strength, and a whole lot of things. And people are much more confident when in their bodies, when they feel that they are able to shape the body the way they want it to be. So, and also another big part of high school is also health and substance abuse and sex education. So when you are in high school, in PE programs, in international schools, all these 4 areas become a very, very important part of your high school PE classes. And this is also now slowly being introduced in a phased manner into the CBSE curriculum. And the CBSE curriculum has been taking the best practices from around the world and have been introducing it, which is a good thing for physical education in India. And some of the states have also done it, but many of the states are lagging behind in trying to implement a physical education curriculum that is progressive, that is structured, and that is focused on development of the individual person. So this is a quick run through about the formative formation of sports in schools. We're going to go into our next phase now, the effect of COVID-19 on sports worldwide. COVID-19 has really, really brought the curtains down on one of the biggest industries in the world. Worldwide, sports has been affected very seriously. And if we look at the impact of the earnings, we are going to take a long time before we recover from this. But fortunately, new avenues have opened up, and managers around the world in sports management have risen to the challenge, and they have come up with some tremendous alternatives to keep the existing sports scenario growing. So if you look at the example of the NBA bubble that has been created in Orlando, Now, it's tough on the players. I mean, you can create an atmosphere with audio, and you can create the crowd chanting in the on the audio systems, but players always thrive, and most of us know as players that we love to play in front of an audience. And when an audience is missing, there is something that is missing in our whole play. But I think even that now, many players at the highest level have risen to this challenge of playing to empty stadiums. And they have been able to raise their standards of playing as if they are playing in front of a packed stadium. Of course, the organizations are creating the atmosphere of a full stadium today with sound and video and lighting and the whole thing that happens before a game. But the biggest, I think, the takeaway here is how the players have risen to this challenge. Closed stadiums are a massive, massive loss for many of the clubs worldwide for every sport. Um, Clubs and stadium authorities are facing huge challenges on how they are going to keep this going and how long can they keep this going before the fans come back into the stadiums. The fans are there online now, but the revenue that comes into stadiums from live games is unmatched. And the when we talk about, it is not just about the seats on the people occupying the seats in the stadium. It's about the whole ecosystem that goes around a stadium during a match day, where that supports the local economy in terms of merchandise, in terms of food, in terms of beverages, the whole thing that evolves around a live game. Sports federations are also rising up to the challenge day by day. They are finding new ways of getting their people engaged. And one of the things that I see, which is very positive, is there is a lot of coaches' education happening online. More and more people have been given the opportunity to come online and share their experiences, like I am doing with you now, with a wider audience, which may not have been possible and we would not even have thought of before COVID, about how we can reach out to a wider audience. Most of the time, whenever there have been coaches education programs have been limited to a small audience. But now, with the online sessions happening, uh, it's a much, much bigger reach that we are having now with coaches education. One of the biggest casualties, of course, has been the Olympic Games, Tokyo, which has been cancelled for 2020. And of course, they're going to be back in 2021. And every preparation that has been done for 2020 is still in force. I think Tokyo is totally ready. Even if somebody turns around and announces that let's do it in a month's time now, the organizers of the Tokyo Games are all set and they are ready to organize. Now, one of the challenges again here has been that all organized forms of sports during COVID-19, during the lockdown, has completely come seized. And this of course, affects individual elite athletes who have been training, and they have had to find new ways of how they are going to be keeping themselves in match shape. And this was pretty much being an Olympic year. Everybody was preparing and training and gearing themselves up towards peaking in June at the Olympics. But now they have had to reschedule their whole training cycles, and working with remotely with their coaches, with their trainers. And this has been one of the biggest challenges for professional athletes. And again, as I said, like earlier, professional athletes have stepped up, and also recreational athletes, people who have been involved with outdoor sport, people who have been regularly taking part in outdoor sports, have found new ways of bringing their desired fitness activity into their homes. and into the small, I mean, everybody hasn't got the same kind of space. And people have found it's amazing to see some of the videos of people doing their fitness sessions inside a room that is 10 by 10. And some of my blind footballers, when we were talking to them about how are you going to maintain your fitness, and many of them come from very humble backgrounds, and they hardly have any space to move. But even in that 10 by 10 space, some of my blind footballers have been working on their fitness skills. And it's amazing to see the videos that they have done and sent up showing what they are going to be doing during this COVID times. Personal fitness and group fitnesses have found a new niche market with online training, and that has boomed, I think, now. People have accepted online session. Many of the personal trainers who were affected when their gyms were shut down have found a new market with online training sessions. And schools have gone for the first time with PE classes online. So there is a lot of new learning that is happening during COVID-19 times, especially I think with the schools taking the PE classes online. And every school is finding its own way of doing it. And of course, the sports industry has also stepped in with many of the PE companies that have been schools that have been outsourcing their PE to companies that are involved in the physical education space. They've also come up with some fantastic programs. There's more and more companies that are coming up with PE programs for schools, PE programs which have been designed for individuals for personal training, all the way from kindergarten and up to seniors. So we see a lot of changes that are happening. And I think these are the good changes which have been brought in because of COVID-19. Now, as I said, I had mentioned earlier about how the scenario now is happening with the professional leagues continuing, especially with the English Premier League, which I'm suppose there's quite a few fans there who are online today. And it was good to see the league come back. And also the Champions League in Europe is happening now, closed stadiums, but the tournament is on and they will be completing their schedules. The same thing with the NBA, the European the Champions Trophy, and the Formula One racing. They're all back, minus the fans. But this has taken the expertise of a whole lot of people to bring this back, including scientists from NASA. And how are we going to support scientists from NASA have been coming up and talking about how the isolation of astronauts in space and using that isolation studies, what they have done there, and their personal physical fitness training programs that astronauts have done in space, and introducing those kind of space-based personal training programs for elite athletes who are in competitive leagues now. What is going to be the effect on schools post-COVID-19? This is going to be something which is an evolving situation. It's dynamic, it's fluid, it's changing. But at the moment, we are not yet clear about what is going to happen with school sports, because we don't even know when we are going to be coming back. The current scenario we're talking about, nothing happening until December. When we come back to school, there are certain groups Am I okay now, Simone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. So there is discussions happening regarding return to sports for school. What is going to be the scenario when children come back into schools? Are we going to be having the same? I don't think so. Life has changed a lot. School is never going to be the same like how it was before COVID-19, pre-COVID days. There's going to be a lot of protocols based on social distancing. It's going to be on safety, on hygiene. Access to play fields is going to be limited for children. We are not even sure if children are going to be coming back as a whole class to school. And when you come back to school, your section, are you going to be able to sit down like how you were sitting down 40, 50 in a classroom? Are you going to be able to assemble as the same classroom? That is also a question mark. Are we going to have 5 days a week of school? That's a question mark. So there are a whole lot of challenges that are going to be awaiting us, especially with sports, uh, which looks like all competitive elements of school sports are going to be literally wiped out for the year, for the academic year 2020-2021. Because if we come back in Jan, it's going to be too late for any of the inter-school programs to take place. I think if schools are going to be looking at, they would probably be looking at their own intramural programs, which could also be limited. So everything is going to be speculation. It's all going to depend on how things pan out with the pandemic at the moment. And when we come back, how each individual school is going to be ready to respond to the return of students to school and the return of students to sports. Now, for those of you who are still in school, I was told that there are going to be a lot of students from class 12. And many of you are looking at sports as a career. And I also had the opportunity before when I was talking to some of our NASM students, and some of them who are looking at sports as a career, as an elite, being an elite athlete who had to stop and to move on to alternates. So when we look at sports as a career in India, I would say that this generation is the right generation. So with the advent of professional sport in India, the opportunities for an elite professional career in sports is quite high. But remember that even in Europe, the best professional sportsmen who have a contract every year fail to renew their contracts the following year. So if you are taking up sports as a career, there are opportunities in India, tremendous opportunities in most sports. We talk about cricket, of course, cricket leads the bunch. Football is closely following. Now we're looking at kabaddi, which is taken off pretty well. We're looking at badminton. There was a volleyball league that took off, and unfortunately it was not able to carry on. I'm sure it's going to come back in a big way. Same with the basketball league. So there are a lot of leagues that are going to be coming in India, and players are going to be getting opportunities to develop as professionals. But to make sure that you are going to be in that elite group, you need to be spotted very well in advance. So if you take the cricket scenario, now you have the under 13, the under 15, under 17, under 19. Same with the ISL also, with the AIFF and the Reliance Foundation, focusing on the under 13, under 15, under 17. You have a lot of players getting opportunities. I mean, when you just look at how the under 15 league has grown, I think 3 years back, there was only about all India, there was pan India, there was about 20 clubs who were taking part in the under 15. And now just the South Zone alone has got more than 30 clubs. So the number of clubs that have been giving opportunities for young players to take part in professional leagues and being spotted has grown. Also very important is for the younger generation of children. When we talk about the younger generation, I'm talking about elementary children, class 5 and up to the age of 10, to have a very good background in a multi-sport environment and not to specialize very early. The more children are exposed to multi-sports environment, as we talk about a physical literacy program, understanding your locomotor skills, your manipulative skills, your non-locomotor skills. When you have a foundation that covers all sports, you are a better athlete. And you can transfer and you can respond to situations much better than persons who come from a single sports background. Also very important is that if you are going to be focusing on being an elite athlete, being a part of the regular school system can be a burden for you. Going to school, taking part in regular tests every day, quarterly exams, half yearly exams, assignments, midterms, these are steps which could be detrimental for somebody who's totally focusing on training. And if you have to be training morning sessions and evening sessions and still do school work, it is not easy. It is a great challenge. It's a very, very big challenge for anybody. So the alternate is to look at systems like the education systems like the NIOS and the other open school systems where you can focus completely on building your sports career. And at the same time, when you are at the right age, you also have the secondary and the higher secondary certifications. When you start finishing, one of the most important things as when you create a career in sports, you are all not going to make it as professional athletes. Some of you will not make the cut. But what is going to happen to you when you don't make the cut as a professional athlete? You need to have a backup. You need to have a parachute. And again, I come back to my conversation with the NASM students. Many of them have done elite sports and now they have moved into sports management, which makes them better sports managers because they have already been exposed to sports in their early foundation years. They try to be elite athletes, but now they're not able to make the cut there. So they are going to be involved in sports, but in a different capacity. Just give me a minute, please. I'm just here. Sorry. Now, sport is no longer considered a sideshow of the global business activity and is now an independent global industry in its own right. When we talk about the sports industry, it is one of the fastest growing industries worldwide. It has been growing, but in India, in the last 10 to 15 years, the sports industry is one of the fastest growing industries. Now, this growth in the sports industry has been brought about by the arrival of management students, or I would say management graduates from other fields, not from sports. People who have come in from other fields of management who have found this big gap in the sports industry in India, whether it is in physical education, whether it is in organization, whether it is in administration, and have created this sports industry and made it grow in the last 15 years. I think before 2000, there was hardly any significant schools that were offering sports management as a course. There were very few schools that were offering sports management as a course. If you wanted to do something in sports, it was either physical education colleges or it was NIS. These are the two areas that were relevant for people before 2000. After 2000, we have seen a tremendous growth in the different opportunities that are available for people to succeed with sports management as a career. And one of them is the fitness industry. If we talk about the fitness industry and how the personal fitness industry and the growth of personal trainers in the last 15 years with the ACE certification and the international certifications coming to India, and many of the professionals stepping up and taking these international certifications, which were not available in India, which are not a part of the mainstream NIS or the physical education colleges. All these things have been brought into the limelight by professionals that came in from other areas and have seen this gap. And they've come in there and they've done a great job. I mean, I come up from a physical education background, and I wish when I was doing my physical education in college that we had this exposure to sports management. Our 3 years of physical education college, the it was a very, very limited exposure to sports management as a part of our curriculum. But today, thanks to all the, as I would say, the foreigners who came into sports management and have brought about this awareness and created these courses and the certifications for sports managers, the growth has been tremendous and it is going to be growing even more. When we look at the history of sports management in India post independence, all our federations were managed by uh, the very early days of post independence. If you look at our first presidents of the Football Federation or the Athletic Federation or the Cricket Federation, were people who had royal connections, who came from the royalty, or there were people who came from the bureaucratic background, who came from the administrative services after retirement from there, or from the army, and even the people who took over the reins of administering Indian sports in a honorary capacity. But today now we are looking at many of our sports organizations looking at professionals coming in to manage all these areas of the administration of the national sports federations. Quite a few federations have gone in with professional managers and it has been paying off. If you look at the All India Football Federation now, a whole lot of professional MBAs who have come in there have taken over various aspects of the growth of the All India Football Federation. The same way, if you look at the Hockey Federation, the cricket, in many of the, you look at the Special Olympics, Bharat, they've got a whole lot of MBA graduates who have come in there. And they are making a difference now because sports management is no more considered as a honorary career. This is a professional career where people are coming in and bringing in their best with a foundation in management, sound foundation in finance, HR, training, the whole works. And as the sports industry grows in India, there is going to be a tremendous, tremendous demand for quality sports managers. Now, the quality sports managers are going to be coming from a background where the first thing is going to be is your passion. Do you have a passion for sports? And how are you going to translate this passion into a career? And that's where your sports management degrees come in, where they're going to help you to become proficient with your passion and then take this proficiency and your passion and create a personality for you that will help to fuel this growth of sports management in India. It is very important that all these sports management centers, I mean, a whole lot of them are there around the country who are going to be helping us in this journey of how we are going to be promoting Now it's the time for individuals to actively seek out undergraduates and postgraduate programs in sports management. And these are the individuals who are going to be contributing to the rise of professional sport in India. Professional sport in India post-COVID is going to really, really take off. And there is going to be tremendous opportunities in various aspects of the sports management spectrum for people who come out with a sports management degree as an undergraduate or as a postgraduate. Now let's look at the quick career options in sports industry. We're looking at professional sports, as I just mentioned. The next thing is the sports goods industry. The sports goods industry is also, if you look at the rise of decathlon in India, that will give you a good example of how the sports goods industry is rising in India. There are going to be different areas of the sports good industry, from retail to wholesale to merchandising and everything involved with sports goods that are going to be requiring sports management graduates. Fitness training, sports tourism, which is also one of the fastest growing industries worldwide. Countries like the UAE, which have seized this sports tourism opportunity and have created a complete industry around this, where most of the top European clubs in their winter off season, they come down to the UAE and they do their off-season training in the UAE. And the sports tourism industry around it completely supports this. Another big place for this is Cyprus, where again, off-season training is done a lot. Amateur and recreation sports and sports medicine. Another area, the other areas that are going to be opening up for graduates in sports management. With the government of India, the Khelo India program is one of the largest programs that has been absorbing a lot of sports management graduates. Same with the Sports Authority of India, SAI. They've also been recruiting a lot of people with sports management backgrounds. And as our country grows and as our economy grows, all these areas of sports management are going to be replicated in the states. And each state has got its own state development authorities, sports development authorities in different states. For example, in my state, in Tamil Nadu, we have what is called the Sports Development Authority of Tamil Nadu. And they're also slowly changing into a professional setup. And they will be looking at professional sports managers in different areas to come in and start helping fuel the growth of sports in India. The top employers of sports management graduates in India, we got most of our graduates are already looking at them: Star Sports, 10 Sports, ESPN, JSW Sports, Decathlon, Olympic Gold Quest, Sportswise India, Sports Authority of India, the National Sports Federation, Go Sports Foundation, the CIAT Foundation, IMG, DNA, Sports Interactive, Pitch Vision, XLRE8, EduSports, 365 Sports. There is a whole lot of sports companies that are coming up. Every day there are new startups that are coming in sports, literally. I mean, you can look at it, the startups that are coming up in sports. Weekly, there is a new startup coming. And all of them are going to be looking at sports management graduates in India to fuel this growth. The other areas of opportunities for graduates in sports management is marketing, and one of the biggest fields is going to be sports analytics and working as a sports analyst. And when you come from a background of playing sports and you also have a background in sports management, you can become a great analyst. And when you understand, if you have one particular sport that you are very proficient in, you can contribute a lot to the success of teams. Sports analysts are going to be playing a crucial role in the success and failure of professional teams in professional leagues. All coaches and support staff depend on the analysts to come back to them and give them the ideas on how are they going to work on their own individual players' performance and also on the opposition. Sports agents are the next millionaires in sports, and quite a few of them are there in Europe and in the US. And it's beginning to grow now in India. All India Football Federation has got a program where sports agents have to complete a course to become a certified sports agent. And as professional sports increases in India, sports agents are going to be the norm. Athletes are going to be spotted very early. Elite athletes are going to be signed up by sports agents, locked into contracts, and then they are going to be sold. So persons who come in with a management background in sports are able to understand how sports agents work. This is another area where you would be in demand. Sponsorship, merchandising, finance, business, operations, and sports arbitration, another big area. Sports arbitration, as professional sports is going to be increasing. Sports arbitration and sports law is also going to become a big part of the overall sports ecosystem. Sports communication, facility management is one of the areas that we lack very much in India. Today, most of our sports facilities all over India are managed by unprofessional people. So what happens is all our sports stadiums in India are government properties. And when you have a government property that is being managed by people who work for the government, so it is a typical government attitude where the maintenance is absolutely zero. So, for example, when I look at, I'll give you an example of what I see all the time. It happens to one of our main stadiums in Chennai. We have the Nehru Stadium in Chennai, which is our biggest stadium, which is a FIFA standard stadium, AIFF standard stadium. It's a world-class stadium. But throughout the year, until the ISL comes along, only when the ISL team comes in 2 or 3 months before and they take over the stadium, then the stadium starts becoming alive and there is maintenance happening. Post the ISL, again, it goes back to the old thing. So one of the areas that Sports Authority of India and the individual state governments will also be looking at is quality sports facility managers, which are going to be required not only for stadiums, also for private enterprises. There are a whole lot of clubs that are coming up countrywide with the best sports facilities, and they would require people with experience in managing sports facilities. Currently, the easiest way for anybody who's got a private setup with sports facilities and who want to maintain very high standards is that they look for people from an ex-services background to manage these facilities. Sports event management and sports consultants are also going to be key areas of opportunities for graduates in sports management. So there we are, the top schools. This is my list. The Institute of Social Welfare and Business Management, International Institute of Sports Management, Symbiosis School of Sports Sciences, the National Academy of Sports Management, our hosts today, and the National Sports University. So anybody who's looking at doing a degree in sports management, these are some of the top colleges in India where you can do a program in sports management. And here are the international players who are offering MBA in sports management. So as I say, Carpe Omnia, seize the opportunity. The opportunities are fantastic in the field of sports management. And all the graduates from NASM and our guests who have joined us today, I wish you all the best in your journey in sports management. Stay inspired, and a happy Independence Day. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative webinar. I would like to hand over the question answer session to Ishan.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful insights on sports management and sports development. So we are actually overwhelmed by the questions from the participants. I have more than 25, 30 questions. So I'll just, sort it out and ask the major few questions to you, so you can answer the most of it. First question I have is, so if we are talking about sports facility in India,
Ishan,
so what are the major, planning and
Ishan, can you just give me a minute? I'm going to just grab a drink, please. Sorry.
Yes, sir. No problem, sir.
No problem, sir.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Since we are talking about sports facility and development, so one question I had from a participant was what kind of departments are exactly there in facility development? So, if one is interested in, facility development department, he wants to work in facility development. What are the departments where he can work exactly?
Okay.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are very clear. I'm going to share my experience of working in facility management. So one part of my career, I took a break from physical education and I went into recreation management. And I had the opportunity of working in one of the finest clubs in Dubai, which is called the Aviation Club. And I was working, so in the Aviation Club, we have two sides of the club. One is the sports side and one is the food and beverage side. So, and this is a club open for members, which is run by the Department of Civil Aviation of Dubai. And so when we talk about the recreation side, we were totally focused on managing all our sports facilities. So I had a recreation manager, and I was working right under the recreation manager as the recreation supervisor. So, and under me, we have a whole team of people who are involved in operations. So on the other side of it, we have the club general manager who runs the whole club. And then we had the food and beverage manager. Then we had our marketing managers for the club. And we had the communications team and the operations side. So when we look at facility management, there are whole areas of facility management. One could be exclusively from management of the sports facilities. Another area could be, because when you look at if it is just a stadium, then that's exactly what you will be doing, just managing a complete area of all the sports facilities. So are there any courses? I am not sure at the moment if there are any courses that are exclusively dealing with facility management, but I know there are courses for facility management for other areas, but not exclusively for sports. I may be wrong. I'm not sure about that. But yes, facility management is going to be one of the key areas for sports infrastructure growth in the future.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, wonderfully said. Facility management is indeed a very developing area. So I have one more question regarding the same thing. So one person has asked that if we are talking about facility, now technology has been major part of facility and sports. So how technology can change the infrastructure or the facilities part in future for the sports industry.
Oh, definitely very big. When you talk about bringing in technology to, let's take lighting, for example. If you're having stadium lighting, and if you've got technology, I think I just need to switch on some lights. Just a minute. Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, when we talk about technology, yes, there's going to be technology comes in very strong. Technology comes in very strongly because when we talk about lighting, for example, you look at some of the best stadiums in the world. It's the whole lighting is all technology based, and if we take the same example, which is already happening in India, is with our cricket stadiums. Our cricket stadiums are some of the finest examples of facility management at the highest level, because in terms of when it comes to sports management, the BCCI and the whole cricket environment are the benchmark for anything, whether it is in management, facility management, education, players, revenue generation. That is where we have to learn from. I think they are the best example of anything to do with how they've used technology also in management.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. I totally agree with you because I personally come from an engineering background. I'm personally a diploma in electrical. So, lighting and technology is going to be a major part of sports in future. We can definitely say that. So the next question comes from a student. So he says, if I'm not from a specific sports background, or if I'm not related to sports, but still I have to make career in sports, will I be able to succeed?
Absolutely. As long as you have a passion for sports. You don't need to be a sports person, but if you have a passion for being with sports, see, everything in life is about having a passion. So if you enjoy, even if you're not you're not a sports person, but you enjoy being in an atmosphere of sports, and this is one of the best places to be. You're not going to be playing, you're not going to be participating, but you can be close to the action. If you are involved in operations, if you're involved in marketing, in merchandising, or you're going to be an analyst, or you're going to be an agent, There are so many places where you can be. So it is not important that you have to be a sports person, but it is just about if you have a passion for being around sports, which is more important.
Great, great, sir. So, next question is from a PT teacher actually. So he says that since we are all facing this huge COVID-19 pandemic and everything has came to a standstill, so how we are supposed to keep our children motivated through online physical education and physical training activities. So if you can share some of your personal insights, like how you have been motivating your school children from Montfort High to continuously do physical activities.
Yeah. So what we are doing, this is our example at Montfort, what we are doing now. So now we have scheduled one PE class a week for every class. And so the focus totally of the PE class now is we are using the Teams app. And so the children log into the session. And when they come into the session, we are bringing in a whole class. So we say, for example, if class one is there, and we have four sections of them, A, B, C, and D, all four sections of the class are in attendance. And the focus totally now is on physical fitness. We are working on their fitness, and we are giving them guidelines on how to stay fit at home and trying to incorporate at least 60 minutes of activity. We're talking about physical activity. And with the younger ones, we are trying to bring their parents also involved in that, because most of the time the parents are chaperoning them while they are in the class. So it makes a lot of sense for us to make sure that the parents are also involved along with the kids in the class. So we try to do activities where the parents can also support the child when they're doing an activity. So it becomes more of a family oriented thing. But as we go to the higher classes, we are focusing more on fitness, and we are giving them personal fitness challenges. We are doing circuits. And for the gentleman who asked this question, one of the things I would suggest for you is to look at Tabata routines. Look at foundation Tabata routines, which can be easily incorporated into online PE classes, depending on the ability level of your students. Tabata is a fantastic way of getting the children to stay fit, and ask them to come up with personal challenges. Like if you have somebody in class 4 or 5, ask them to see how many push-ups can you do. Teach them how to do push-ups, and then ask them to set personal benchmarks for them to succeed with.
Right, right, right. So next question is my personal favorite, and I hope you will also like this question because it comes from a footballer, and we both are from football background. I know that you have been a vice president of Tamil Nadu Football Association. So the question is that how AIFF is going to cover the future sporting events, future footballing events, and how the training schedules will be accordingly planned, and how the grassroots academy are going to incorporate these changes.
So are we talking about the post-COVID-19?
Post COVID-19 football,
Yeah.
about the grassroots and the AIFF, the roadmap which AIFF is trying to follow right now.
See, at the moment now, I think there's no clear roadmap for post-COVID-19 for the grassroots programs. But I think the ISL is looking at a program that is going to be based in Goa, just like the NBA Orlando bubble. So the whole program is going to be run in Goa. That is the current scenario, what they're looking at. It will be just one venue, no home and away games. So we're not sure how well it's going to go, because there's a whole lot of matches that have to go through. We got 12 teams and almost about 70 plus games. And it's a long season to be happening in one location. Uh, but that, as I said, with COVID-19, these are challenges that are being thrown up to administrators and managers in all sports, and every one of them is coming up. But as far as grassroots is concerned, at the moment, it is still all on hold. There's a whole lot of programs that AIFF has been planning for the grassroots, with the grassroots academies, the Little League, the Golden League, as they call it. There's so much being planned. And unfortunately, everything has come to a stop because of COVID. But I'm sure as soon as we are back to sport post COVID-19, it is very important that we also make sure that remember with our youngest kids, when we talk about our grassroots, we're talking about 4 years and above. we need to be very careful with them. And it's not easy when you bring in kids and you who are just used to playing, and suddenly we have this new strange protocols of you can't do this, you can't do this on the ground, and kids are like, I just came to play, and you're telling me I can't do this, I can't do that. So we will have to be very careful about how we are going to approach the grassroots program post COVID-19. It's going to be a big challenge for all the academies, coaches everywhere, but I'm sure everybody will step up to the plate and accept this challenge.
Definitely, definitely, sir. So the before we move on to participants' questions, I have one last question again from a PT teacher. So he says that kids are eating wrong nutritional food right now since it's a lockdown. They're trying to eat up junk. So how your insights are on that thing, nutrition on lockdown?
And Ishan, one of the things, sorry, no offense to you, but very important that we stop using this word as PT teacher. Uh, See, this is where we are taking it away from education. Uh, they are physical education teachers, and even the physical education teachers themselves have to be advocates for their own profession and make sure that when people are using this word PT master, PT miss, you tell them, no, I'm not a PT master. PT was physical training which existed about in the 1960s, because at that time it was all PT in schools. But now we have moved into the realm of education. It's a whole process. And as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we start from kindergarten, and it's a continuing progressive development curriculum all the way up to class 12. So it is very important for people who are involved in physical education in schools to refer to themselves as physical education teachers, be advocates for your own profession, and stand up and be a light to say that, yes, we are PE teachers. Sorry, Ishan, what was the question, by the way?
Sir, it was about
Nutrition.
nutrition.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
okay. Nutrition, as I said, is one of the key elements of physical literacy. So, in our journey of physical education in school, we bring this nutrition aspect into physical education from class 6 and above. So, it starts with children identifying what are the elements on my plate. So, if I have a plate of food in front of me, children should be able to say, okay, this is carbohydrates, this is protein, this is fat, and what is the portions that I should be having on my plate? Should I be having a lot of this? Should I be having a lot of this? And understanding portions on the plate. So if we start educating our children very early, we can even, some of the schools even start teaching this to the children in the upper elementary stage, so that they're able to look at a food and say, chips, okay, that's carbohydrates. If I look at sweets, that's again carbohydrates of a high glycemic index. My sugar is going to go up. So it's like they should be able to look at food and identify food and say that this is, and they should also know what should be on my plate when I'm eating. What constitutes a healthy diet? So it's all about educating our children and making them understand the value and the importance of nutrition in everyday life. Our children are becoming obese because somewhere in our Indian culture, we always said a chubby child is a very healthy child. And they always say like, after some, when they grow up, that all that fat will disappear. It's not true. That fat stays forever. So every parent who has been shoveling food down the child's throat and making them chubby, you are creating an obese child. And to top it all, uh, parents have reduced the physical activity for the children. You have reduced physical activity, but you are increasing their intake. You're giving them more high calorie food to eat. Now, how is this child going to burn this food? So there should be a balance between your caloric intake and your physical activity. And the key here is to also educate parents at all levels. We must make sure that parents also understand and what constitutes a healthy diet.
Definitely, definitely, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for answering these questions. So, Simon, over to you now. You can open up the chat bar for questions from participants.
Yeah. There are very few questions which have been asked on the chat, so I'll be addressing them to you, sir. So there was a question from one of the participants. It's a really long one. So does sports management actually matter in India? Also, he has put a statement saying because people who are sitting in the top of leagues teams do not have a sports management degree. Why would someone pursue a course in this by spending lakhs when all it matters in India to get into leagues and teams is your communication skill and your work experience and your networking skills?
I think all the three factors that he mentioned towards the end, your communication skills, your networking skills, are all very key elements of how you are going to be. It's not just only about sports management. This is about careers in any field. But your sports management degree is not going to guarantee you a job in sports management, wherever it is. It's the same for any other field. It can only get you past that door. But once you cross that door there, it is going to come down to your own passion, your own proficiency, and your own personality that is going to decide how you are going to acquire the job that you want.
Correct.
The most important thing here is to I mean, it's not just only about sports management. This is the thing, the same thing I keep telling my students in class 11 and 12. You could get a degree from the school. You get your higher secondary degree. And there are so many children who come from the same government schools in Tamil Nadu who get the same degree. They get the same degree as you. Your parents put you here into the school because they are hoping that you are going to come out as an all-rounded person, where your personality, your proficiency, and your passion are going to be the ones that are going to be highlighting the skill sets that you have. So wherever you go, these three things are going to be important. And as the person whoever mentioned, networking is one of the keys. It is very important that you start networking very, very, very early in your undergraduate program itself. Grab every opportunity that you get to be an intern, whether it is paid, unpaid, the hours are too long. When I do my events with some of the sports management companies, I work with PMG in Mumbai, and I've seen interns who come in there and who really slog, an absolute slog. They are there. I go in one night before to see for the event. They are setting up, and I come back the next morning and I start the event. But I ask the guy, like, what time did you go home? Like, I went at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, oh wow, So, but that's where you are going to learn the ropes, and but it's the opportunity to network. And once you are networking and learning, and you have that passion there, managers are going to see that in you. But just having the degree by itself is not going to get you through that door.
Correct, so very well said. Also, another question was in the present NEP 2020, is sports given any importance?
Very much, very much. The NEP is a total progressive curriculum where we are looking at now 60 minutes of physical activity every day per child in school. Now, when we talk about 60 minutes of physical activity per child per day in school, it is not just about a PE period, but it's a combination of before school, break time, lunch time, after school, and PE. So the idea is to make sure that when you're in school or even outside, that you find 60 minutes of physical activity. The whole idea is to promote be active for at least 60 minutes a day.
Very well said, sir. Also, these are the only two questions which have been posted in the groups. I mean, on the chat. So, if is there any other questions from the participant, if you all want to ask, so we can give you permissions to unmute yourself so that you can have a live interaction with the speaker. You all can raise your hand for that. There's one participant who has raised her hand, so I'll just unmute.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
yes,
audible.
please go ahead.
Sir, I'm really happy with this session today, and you have really elaborated so much on the sports as a career. Many parents have this, kind of feeling that what will happen in sports, and should I put my daughter or son into the sports career? But I am really happy after this session that I have taken this decision of opting for the sports as a career for my daughter. So I am so happy with your session, sir, and maybe I can connect with you. I'm a teacher educator in Mumbai, and I can connect with you sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please do get in touch with me. I think Simone will share my number with you. So
Yes, sir.
always,
Thank you.
always help you.
So there's one more hand, so I'll just unmute.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Uh, I wanted to ask you something about sports nutrition. So, like, there are many myths in the market about whey protein. Sports nutrition is a thing. Like, athletes need nutrition and supplements too. So, can you clear the myth? What is whey protein? Actually, a lot of people don't know about whey protein, and there are many myths like they are steroids. Whey protein is a steroid. There is a myth in the market that whey protein is a steroid. Can you please explain about this? Like,
So I'm not going to claim to be an expert on whey protein, but I'm going to just break it down to as simple as possible. Uh, when we have dye at home, and when you open a tub of dye, the water that you see on top there, that is whey, and that is absolutely loaded with protein. So whey protein, which is sold commercially, comes in different forms, and whey protein is an important part of building mass in the body. And so if you're going to be going through using a supplement, there are a whole lot of pros and cons about using supplements to build your body. That is something which is an individual choice. People, when you make the choice to use whey proteins, you have to really research it, speak to a proper nutritionist, and make sure that you get the best guidance possible. But if you are looking at building mass in your body, you cannot do it without whey protein. You need to have whey protein, and it helps you a lot.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone? Yeah.
Uh, Good evening, sir. My name is Bharat. So my question was that in one of your slides, you had explained about kids going to school after post-COVID. So though there was a situation where doctors came out that the mask which kids are wearing is really harmful because while they're walking or while they're running in school, the heart is palpitating that moment, which is leading to heart attack because there's no breathing which is being processed through the body. So what's your view on this? Like, will the mask thing will be going on forever till this time is on? Like, will they come up with something or a backup plan, or what's your view on it? Like many aims doctors have told that while jogging, running, that people should not wear a mask because the heart is beating at that moment and the blood rate was very high. So that leads to strokes and heart attack at that moment. So what's your view on that?
Bharat, it's a very good question, and I'll tell you my personal experience. The other day, I was wearing my mask, and I had to move from one part of the school building to another at a run,
Yes, sir.
and I was struggling. You know,
Exactly, sir. Because there's claustrophobic.
you know,
Hmm.
within a few minutes, I was like, "Ha!" I said, like, and then suddenly I was like, wow, okay, I forgot I had my mask on. I was wondering like, what's happening to me? I'm not that bad with my fitness. I can, I can move upstairs and run up a flight of stairs pretty well, but I
Yes,
really
sir.
struggle. So
Yes,
I
sir.
think personally, I think this is where it's going to be, because when kids are going to be in school,
Especially the nursery kids, sir. The
yeah,
age 5 to 7, who are very delicate when it comes to their health issues. Because though they have a very strong immune system, but coming with this problem and facing all this scenario and the situation, so you understand, sir, breathing is the most important part for them currently because wearing their mask upon them and then going.
It's going to be a big challenge for us because see, especially with the younger kids, if you I mean I take kindergarten class. When they come outside to me and the PE ground is totally different, but I feel sorry for some of the teachers in the classroom. You know, sometimes when you try and get their attention, it's not possible. I mean, kids are going to be running around. So if these kids are going to be wearing masks all day in school, it's going to be very tough on the younger ones. The older ones might be like, you know, they might have, they might understand, but the younger ones, they're not going to understand that they got a mask on. It is difficult for your normal respiration to happen when you're wearing a mask. You can do your daily activities in the sense like you can walk, you can sit down in a space, you can ride a bike, or you can do. When I say, I mean, you can ride a motorbike. But doing physical activity, being physically active, wearing a mask is quite challenging
Yes,
because it
absolutely.
totally impedes your respiration. Your inspiration and your exhalation are both impaired. So you're not able to, when you exhale, you're not able to get out most of the carbon dioxide from your lungs. It's going to slow down the process of exhalation. Inhalation also is going to be slowed down. So there will be challenges as to how we are going to do this. But
Exactly,
one of
sir.
the things that I've been hearing is like the younger ones are not going to be coming back to school for quite some time.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So I guess with this we come to the end of all the questions and answers. So I would like to hand over the I would like to put the platform open to Shivam so that he can speak a few words.
Good evening, sir. I really liked the thing you said, the information you gave. It was really amazing for me, for my friends, for everyone, the participants, and it was really great to have you. Thank you for it. And I have a question. It's the last, and we are going to complete this session after that. So about tonight actually, there's a match, Bayern versus Barcelona. So that match has the potential to be the match of the year. So what are your views on it, and who do you back?
Well, if you ask me by current form, I would definitely back Bayern. So, sorry, Barcelona fans, I'm not puncturing your hopes, all the Messi fans. But you know, when it comes to German teams, Barcelona, Spanish teams, they play with from their heart. There's more passion in the Spanish play. But the Germans are going to come with a real German strategy of how we are going to break them down, contain them, and destroy them. That's basically how German teams operate. So it's going to be all about German efficiency versus Spanish passion. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be German efficiency that's going to come on top. I hope I'm not going to be wrong. Sorry,
Thank you so
Barcelona
much.
fans.
Thank you so much, sir. Also, before we end this, I would like to invite you to fill this small feedback form which we have prepared. So it'll be on your screen.
Is this for me or for all the attendees?
So for all the attendees,
Okay, okay.
So while the feedback form is being filled by all the participants and the attendees, I would like to extend my great gratitude to Mr. Sebastian Francis for accepting our request for being the speaker for today's webinar. And I would like to thank all the participants who have joined for this webinar. Hopefully, this session has been of great interest and has also helped you learn more about sports and will be more practical in your future. I would also like to thank all my team members who have put so much of effort and have worked tirelessly for this webinar and have put in all their efforts, all their resources for making this possible. And yeah, if any other participant wants to give a first-hand feedback apart from filling the form, can also do that if you all want to.
I would also like to thank some of my guests who have joined us. I think I can see Coach James Jude there. Coach James is
Yes, sir.
he's with the Neyveli Sports Corporation. He's based in Neyveli. He's one of the topmost track and field coaches of Tamil Nadu, who has produced quite a few athletes who have done well in the national level. Coach James, thank you for joining.
I think he's not able to unmute his mic. I tried asking him to,
It's
but
okay. It's all right. It's all right.
so with this, I would like to sign off today with all my teammates on my side and with you, sir. Once again, thank you for accepting our request. And so, yeah, all the participants can leave the meeting now. And I would just like my teammates to stay for a while.
I mean, there are so many aspects that you need to consider while, we approach.
Sir, Priyanka Verma, ma'am, is part of our administrative team. So, yeah, I think
Yes.
only she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ma'am, you can put on your video.
Give me a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am. No problem.